The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 10 and 11 are here. The Marauder is gone. Omega has been captured. Dr. Hemlock is more evil than ever, and wow, we have a lot to break down from these two episodes. So smash a freaking like on this video and let's break this all down. Episode 10, Identity Crisis, opens with a mom and her baby going into town. This is a Force-sensitive child. This is made clear when he throws a vase at this pedestrian. The mother takes the child and runs away, but it's too late. The people of the town know that this kid is Force sensitive. Now, the Bad Batch takes place after Order 66, meaning all the Jedi are supposed to be dead. So pretty much every adult Force user in the galaxy, give or take a few, are gone. So in order for the Empire to find people with a high midichlorian count, they have to find children. Now, this character of the species Aqualish calls the Empire and tells them that he needs a Class 1 bounty hunter because there's a kid that they might have some interest in. We then cut to Mount Tantus, which we haven't seen in weeks, where we see Dr. Hemlock in the cloning facility where they create the clone assassins. And from the looks of it, there's supposed to be 6 clone assassins. Now, we've already seen 2 of them die throughout the course of the Bad Batch Season 2 and Season 3, and the third one has been hunting down our heroes for the last 4 episodes. Meaning there are still 2 clone assassins left, and this scene is probably alluding to the fact that those 2 clone assassins will become extremely important later on down the line. Whether these clone assassins are Commander Cody or even Tech remains to be seen. In this 10th episode specifically, we see a lot of Dr. Hemlock and making him seem like an evil scientist. Emery and Scorch come to him, and Emery tells him that the progress in the lab has been stalled since Nala Se was confined. Without a head scientist on Tantus, everything has kind of come to a standstill. Hemlock says that they can't trust Nala Se anymore, and Emery says, well, don't you trust me? Haven't I worked by your side for years? Now, Hemlock doesn't trust Emery, it's clear, because she is a clone from Camino who worked under Nala Se for her entire life. And honestly, Hemlock is probably right to not trust her, as I believe that Emery will be the key as to how the Bad Batch find out where Tantus is. But we'll get to that. Hemlock gives the head scientist role to Emery and says he has to bring her up to speed on Project Necromancer. And Project Necromancer is the project to keep Palpatine alive forever. It's the cloning efforts to create a Force-sensitive clone that Palpatine can transfer his Force essence into. And the last we saw it was in Episode 3 of the Bad Batch Season 3, where we got to see inside the vault with Palpatine looking at some Bacta tanks, but this isn't the same area of the vault that we see in this episode. Emery and Hemlock go into the vault and see 3 kids. This reminded me immediately of Stranger Things, 11 and all the other kids inside of that scientist facility. But these 3 kids all have a high midichlorian count. They're all technically Force sensitive but can't wield the Force because they have no training. This girl, Eva, Jax, and this random girl that we never learn her name are the 3 Force sensitive children that are trapped here. But clearly there's room for a lot more. Hemlock explains to us why Omega is so important in this scene. The M count from these kids cannot be replicated. Creating a Force-sensitive clone is an extremely difficult thing to do. Even having these kids with a high midichlorian count and taking their blood does not mean they can take that blood, put it in a different person, and make that person Force sensitive. That's not how it works.
That's not how the Force works.
Omega's blood is so important because she has a high M count, but her blood is the only one that is capable of binding with the host's body to create a Force sensitive clone. So Omega's not special because she's Force sensitive or has a high midichlorian count. She is one of very few across the entire galaxy that has the ability in her DNA to bind with a host's body to create a Force-sensitive clone. Hemlock warns Emery in this scene to not get too close with the children. The less she knows, the better. The less attached she gets, the better. And obviously we know Emery grows attached to these children throughout this episode, which will come back later on in this season, as she again is probably the one who tells the Bad Batch where Tantus is. But Hemlock gets called away, and as he's leaving, this Force-sensitive kid, Jax, watches him leave, planning for a later on escape. We then cut back to this mother and child as the legendary bounty hunter Cad Bane is about to barge in. Now, we've seen Cad Bane collecting Force-sensitive children for Palpatine before in the Clone Wars when he's bringing the Force-sensitive children to Mustafar. But now he's back at it again, getting paid very well by the Empire to capture this kid. We see Cad Bane in Toto put this kid in some sort of pod. This reminds me of Grogu's pod from The Mandalorian, but obviously it's a lot bigger. We cut back to Tantis, where Emery is doing tests on the kids, and she's talking to Eva. Eva says that Nala Se told her that she would find out when they're able to go home, and Emery says that she'll find out what she can, knowing that this kid is never going home. She then goes to take Jax's blood, but while she is, he takes her data pad and tries to escape. This does not work, of course, as we see clone commandos come in and stun the boy. Emery goes to Nala Se, and this scene is very important. Nala Se says, "You've taken my role, so you've seen the specimens in the vault." And Emery's response is, "They are children, like I was." Emery was a clone created on Kamino, and very similar to these children, trapped in a facility that looked very similar. Emery knows firsthand what these kids are going through, and this is yet again alluding to why I think Omega is going to convince Emery pretty easily to help her escape and call the Bad Batch for help. We then see a scene with Hemlock and Emery where Hemlock tells Emery that there's a new specimen coming in today, the kid that we saw Cad Bane take. He says that the clone commando Scorch is going to go get the kid, but Emery wants to go along, see how this process works every step of the way. They're interrupted by a stormtrooper who informs Hemlock that Tarkin is calling him. Governor Tarkin, who of course goes on to become Grand Moff Tarkin, the man who goes down with the ship on the first Death Star in Star Wars A New Hope, asks Hemlock why he's requesting so much money from the Empire. Hemlock tells him that it's a personal order from the Emperor himself, and Tarkin wants in. He wants to know what's going on, and he wants to be a part of it, but Hemlock won't let him. A little bit of jealousy growing within the Empire. Similar to what happens with Tarkin and the Death Star. Krennic is the one who really creates the Death Star, but Tarkin just takes it over as his own. He wants to do the same right now with Mount Tantus, but Dr. Hemlock won't let him. We then see Hemlock looking at plans for the clone assassins, and this looks very similar to an early stage of the Dark Trooper armor. The same Dark Trooper that we see in The Mandalorian Season 2 that Luke Skywalker destroys in his hallway scene, but I think this is alluding to the next clone assassin that we see after the one that we saw in tonight's episode being an upgrade, having stronger armor, probably made from the Zillo Beast's skin, and have a closer look to the Dark Trooper that we've seen in The Mandalorian. But he gets a call from the clone assassin that we saw in episodes 6 and 7. And we still don't know the identity of this clone assassin, but he says that he tracked down the Trandoshian and pulled some intel out of her. This Trandoshian he's referring to is Sid, the lady who was helping out the Bad Batch for a while and then stabbed them all in the back, turning them into the Empire, leading to this whole thing. Yeah, that Trandoshian. So the clone assassin went and interrogated Sid and found out that she worked with a pirate, and this pirate he's referring to is Fee. And Hemlock's response is the other operatives are not yet ready to join you in the field. Again, probably saying that there is an upgrade happening with the next clone assassin coming out. So if you thought this clone was badass, wait till you see the next one. We then cut to Emery, who is going to the space station outside of Coruscant. Now, we never see Coruscant in this episode, but we do see the space station, and we see Cad Bane handing over the child that he captured earlier on. Emery is asking a lot of questions, and Cad Bane's not having it. He just wants his money. Emery's surprised at how young the kid is. Scorch tells her that it just means less trouble, as we just saw a kid try to escape. A baby is probably not going to try to escape. We then go back to Tantus, where Emery is asking what happened to Jax, and the droid tells her that he's been put in solitary confinement for the next 2 days, as is protocol. And she goes to take Eva's blood, and Eva's extremely upset with Emery and won't even look at her. And she says, we all just want to go home. This is the identity crisis that the title of the episode is talking about. Emery. She doesn't know what side she's on. She knows what the Empire is doing is wrong. And the episode ends with Emery taking the toy that Omega made in the first couple episodes and bringing it to Eva, foreshadowing that Emery will be the key to saving Omega and telling the Bad Batch the location of Mount Tantus. And that is episode 10. We don't even see the Bad Batch at all in this episode, and yet we learned so much. From the clone assassin program to Project Necromancer to Emery being the key to all of this. This episode, I give an 8.5 out of 10. Don't forget to give me your ranking in the comment section below for both episodes, but let's dive right into episode 11. Episode 11 is titled Point of No Return, and it opens on this space station where Phee is there just to get some more fuel for her ship. But while she's there, the clone assassin sneaks onto her ship and finds out the location of where Pabu is. We cut to Pabu, where the Bad Batch are getting ready to leave. They're loading up the Marauder with all the essentials they need so that they can get out of there. They're leaving Pabu because they think the people there are in danger. With Asajj Ventress coming in last episode, finding them, she warned them that the Empire is probably not that far behind, and to keep the people of Pabu safe, they're going to leave the planet. We get a scene with Omega and Lena as she leaves Tech's goggles on Pabu as a remembrance of their first actual home together. We then see Hunter and Crosshair getting supplies to load onto the Marauder, as Hunter senses something is not right, as the clone assassin finds them and calls in backup. He calls in Scorch, who tells him that backup is on the way, just don't let them leave. Now there's only one way off this island, and that is the Marauder. So the clone assassin destroys it. Very similar to the Razor Crest in Season 2 of The Mandalorian blowing up, the Marauder is gone. And with it, Wrecker and Gonki get thrown into the ocean, leaving Wrecker unable to help out at all as he remains unconscious through the entire episode. This episode is so crazy that the Marauder getting blown up is almost forgotten because of how much wild stuff happens. Guys, the Marauder is gone. But this leaves the Bad Batch with no escape, as the Empire arrives and begins their search for Omega. Hunter, Crosshair, and Omega realize that the only way off this island is with one of their ships, the Empire ships. So Hunter is going to go steal one, as Crosshair and Omega stay safe. We then get to see the clone assassin tell the stormtroopers to find this girl by any means necessary. Go through every house, and if they don't turn over the girl, then they will burn the island to the ground. Crosshair, Omega, and Batcher are trying to get to where Wrecker is being held, but Batcher just goes off and starts fighting the Empire. But Crosshair tells Omega that Batcher can fend for herself. One by one, all the Bad Batch are being split apart. Wrecker being knocked out, to Hunter trying to find a way off the island, to Batcher now fighting against the Empire. There's only two left, Omega and Crosshair. We then see Hunter taking down some stormtroopers as he jumps on one of the shuttles. It begins to fly away as Hunter takes down the stormtroopers, but the pilot realizes that his ship has been compromised. So the clone assassin kills the pilot. He kills one of his own to take down the ship, and Hunter goes falling into the ocean. Just when you thought the Empire couldn't get much worse, this clone assassin is killing his own. We then cut back to Omega and Crosshair, where Omega tells him that the only option is for me to turn myself in to save all these people. She says that you guys can track me with my comms, to which Crosshair replies they're gonna take your comms. Then she says you can plant a secondary tracker on the ship that takes me. Crosshair says there has to be another way, and Omega knows that there isn't. The only way that the Empire will stop is if they find her. So she turns herself in. She tells the clone assassin to leave these people alone. I'm the one you want. And the clone assassin says, well, you should have thought about that before you came here. Just because Omega by the end of this episode gets captured does not mean that the Empire is going to leave Pabu. The problems are only beginning for the people of this island. But Omega gets taken away. And as she gets put on the flying Dorito, we see Crosshair try to put a tracker on the ship. He has to take out some stormtroopers to do so, but he gets one last shot and he misses. And Omega blasts off into hyperspace with the clone assassin on her way back to Tantus, with no way to track her. But the last scene of the episode sees Omega and she doesn't look worried. She takes off her hat and she meditates. This 11th episode was absolutely incredible. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. From having the Marauder blow up in the first 5 minutes of the episode, to strategically splitting up every member of the Bad Batch one by one, leading Omega to turn herself over and Crosshair being the one to have to plant the tracker, and he fails. Both of these episodes have left the Star Wars fandom rattled. As we come down the home stretch for this Bad Batch final season, we're in for quite a treat, as this is only the beginning of the end. But tell me what you think about these 2 episodes in the comment section below. Rank them out of 10 if you have not yet, because the reviews are in for the next 5 episodes. And what these reviews say might blow your mind, but I covered all of that in this video right here.